Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Replay Mega Man 7. In the last part, we got to our second set of Robot Masters, and now we're continuing on with Slashman, who, according to Mega Man in base, is in charge of the dinosaur unit. His mobility is too high for his comrades to catch up with. Good point, he's lean and wild. Bad point, he's sticky-fingered. I mean, accidentally stabbing things with claws probably would do that. He likes vegetables and dislikes nail clippers. Okay. Now, this stage is one that's relatively dangerous just because of the variance of mechanics in it. We got the Super Mario Bros. 2 logs here that are continuously falling down into a bottomless pit, which is surprisingly easy to fall into if you're being a bit too hesitant with the final set. And later on, we're gonna have this, I'm not sure what type of dinosaur it's based off of, but this long-legged, almost ostrich-looking thing, I think it's coming up right here, that you jump onto the back of, and it can run over spikes. However, that also means you're constantly over spikes, which means death is just a misjudged jump away. And there's one point here especially where you need to be careful, as you need to jump from one to another, and that it can be kind of tight to make if you're not paying attention. Now, something I have to admit that I applaud about this game is the attention to detail in it for the amount of time it was taken to develop. Mega Man 7, supposedly due to bad time management on the behalf of the development team, was only in development for about 3 months prior to release, though there is some data contradictory to that in a prototype that was found that was labeled 1994 versus this game's early 95 release. Oh, hi there! This is the mini-boss, King Gojulus. This fight isn't too bad. Got 2 normal attacks, well, technically 3. It can try to run into you outright. It can fire a multi-shot out of its belly button there, which the best way to avoid that is just to stay to the right. And I believe it can also breathe fire. But as you can see, as long as you use Junk Shield on the jaw, it doesn't get much of a chance to do anything, really. Huh. You know, there's something about this. Something about woods and something bringing up someone about that. Well, remember we got Scorch Wheel last part. If we use it on this tree, as Proto Man hinted at, we can reveal ourselves a ladder. And that allows us to use Rush Coil to get up here and find our good old friend Beat, who we can free from this cage. The reason you were unable to use the Beat Whistle item if you try to buy it in the shop is because you need to free him here. And the moment you free him, you get, I think, 4 free uses. Though notably, I haven't even talked about what Beat Whistle does. Beat in this game functions like he would in the later games, as it were, where he saves you from a bottomless pit, and that's about it. There was apparently at one point in development going to be a Beat weapon similar to 5 and 6, but that got scrapped at some point along the line, and because of that, there's actually an empty spot in the inventory. With that, though, it's time for Slashman, who's weak against Scorch Wheel and Freeze Cracker, though they do have different effects. When you hit him with Scorch Wheel, he gets knocked backwards, he's on fire for a little bit, and then he recovers immediately. With that said, if you hit him with Freeze Cracker, he ends up sliding along the floor based off momentum that he already had. And there might be a way to do damage from him from there, I don't actually think there is, but then he just goes into the same pattern, which is that he jumps up to the ceiling and starts dropping these little eggs on you. The eggs themselves have 2 effects. When they hit the ground and you jump in what's left, you are stuck there and you can't move. If they hit your head like that, you cannot fire your buster anymore, and anything you would have charged is let go. He himself has 2 different attacks while he's doing that. He'll either charge at you directly, like he almost did there, or he's going to do what he's doing now, where he'll fake charging and then jump over to you where he'll do his other notable attack, which is that he'll use his Slash Claws on you, which reaches forward about his own width, I'd say, and really hurts. In terms of fight length and even damage, he's arguably the hardest of the 8 Robot Masters, with or without his weakness. With that said, we do get a pretty decent ability from him. It's also a bit of a rarity in that it's one of the few close-ranged weapons in the classic series at this point. The Slash Claw cuts things apart, doesn't it? Yes, but it has a limited range. And that's about all it does. Compared to other abilities, this one doesn't have any minor secrets to it. You just get a relatively powerful, very close range slashing ability that can take out a lot of minor enemies in one shot. And it is the weakness of our next Robot Master, Springman. who the hell builds a Springman, anyway? Now, Springman, according to Megaman and Base, his body consists of as many as 2,000 springs. He boasts an extremely high bounce. Good point, he's spontaneous. Bad point, he's kind of elusive. He likes high jumps and dislikes low ceilings. That sounds like a recipe for hilarity. And his stage is about as springy as he is. We got springs all over the walls and floors of this stage that function about how you'd expect for a spring to function in a video game. When you land on it, you get bounced up and down as it is, but if you hold the jump button, you get bounced higher. Combine that with the double jump of the super adapter, and you can get some pretty good air in this stage, and there's some pretty good movement you can do. With that said, there aren't many interesting enemies in this stage. With that said, the stage isn't that hard or even that notable. There's not many big tricks in it, aside from some items we want to get along the way. In fact, honestly, if you use the password to have all 8 Robot Masters available from the start, it's not a bad first choice for at least a stage. Springman himself, without his weakness, can be a little bit of a thing. But the stage itself isn't too bad. In fact, you know what? I'm going to see if I can find that password. Alright. It's looking like the password to get all 8 from the start is, from right to left, row by row, is 1755818764862322. But I'm looking around, and I'm seeing that that might not work on the Anniversary Collection 4. That might have been a bug more than anything, really. Either way, we want to use Rush Search right here because you can find a gigantic life capsule that I believe almost completely tops off your energy no matter what life you're at except for dead. There's also in the programming an equivalent weapons capsule, but it's not placed anywhere in the game. And we also want to dig here because there's also a Mega Bolt in this stage. But there's one notable password especially. It's technically the super password, which is put to in the final stage of the game with max everything essentially. Which is, I think, 1415558578236251. The interesting thing about that, though, is that if you hold L and R when confirming that password, you get put into a 2-player versus mode, where you play as Megaman, and the second player plays as Base, and you just fight. It's kind of cool. They got some special abilities, like you can warp to recover some health by double-tapping up. Megaman has a Hadoken move. Base has a Shoryuken move. It's really cool. But we want to use that block here to open this little secret passageway to find ourselves the Hyper Bolt. This is the bolt that Otto was looking for earlier in the game. And giving that to him is going to serve a couple of purposes that we'll get to in a few moments. This is also one of the few full 4-way scrolling sections I can think of in a Mega Man game prior to anything ever, really. 4-way scrolling sections in Mega Man aren't very common. Because there's, like, I think 2 in Mega Man 8, 1 or 2 in Mega Man and Base. I don't think there's any in 9 and 10, are there? I'm not thinking of any. There's a couple in 11, I believe. That's due to 11's different setup. Either way, it's time for Springman, so get out the Slash Claw. And the way he reacts to his weakness is he'll jump up to the highest portion of the middle of the room and do a 1-2 punch combo you can avoid just by sliding, essentially. His only other attack is when he's not doing this, he'll summon his Wild Coils, which are 2 spiked springs that are just bounce up and down around the room, which you can destroy by Mega Bustering. And while they're out on the field, if he lands on you, he'll do this attack where he'll throw you up into the ceiling, essentially, and you'll take a lot of damage. With that said, you want to be careful because there's 2 ways he can do that attack, and the other is if you use the Thunderbolt on him. If you do that, he becomes invincible and a walking magnet, and if you get magnetized into him, he's doing that ceiling crush attack, which will not one-shot you. I think it does like maybe 8 units of health, which is a lot in this game. There's a lot to keep track of in this fight without his weakness, but I have to admit, as long as you, like, do mid-charge shots to get rid of them, it's nothing too bad. I'd say there are harder bosses to do Buster only in this game. And we get an interesting ability from him. The wild coil launches one coil forward and one coil backward, right? Yes, but remember to charge the coils to make them jump higher. Alright, so as Dr. Light just said, it is a double coil you send backwards and forwards. You can charge it up by holding down the button to make them bounce higher. However, what the game doesn't tell you is that you can also hold up while charging to make them bounce basically the maximum height of the screen, and that's essential to use it against the people who are weak against it. With that though, we got Otto's Hyperbolt, so let's go bring that over to him. Hey! That's my bolt! Thanks, it fits perfectly. Now I can work at full power. Look, a new item just for you. I can now make items using half the normal number of bolts. Select the item you want it made. So the Hyperbolt's very worth going for, as not only does everything's price get halved out of the main items, but he also will now produce the S-Can, which is sort of this game's mystery tank. It restores your HP and weapon energy all to max. It's ridiculous. I'm also going to take this opportunity to get as many W-Tanks as I can, as with prior Mega Man games and future ones, restores your weapon energy back to max. However, unlike some games, it restores all of your weapon energy, not just one weapon. And energy tanks, I don't even think I've talked about them yet. They work as they do in prior games. You can just restore your entire HP bar all at once, no matter where you are. Unlike Mega Man 3 onwards, though, you can only hold 4 of any kind of tank at once except for the S-Can. Now, before we enter the last Robot Master stage, I'm going to recommend you press and hold B before pressing start for an interesting secret. If you do that and enter the stage while Shademan is alive, you get a Mega Man version of the Ghosts and Goblins Haunted Graveyard theme, and it's a great rendition of this song. Again, this only works while Shademan is alive, though, as otherwise his normal theme plays. And we'll be hearing that in a moment, because this is one of the few stages in the game that no matter what you do for 100%, you need to visit it twice. Shademan himself, though, used to be an attraction robot for a funhouse. He is currently practicing a new song for karaoke. Good point, he's dandy. Bad point, lazy employees. I'm not sure if that means he has them or he doesn't like them. Likes tomato juice because haha vampire. And dislikes garlic toast, which means he and I would never be friends because garlic bread is something I could live off of. It's one of the many things I agree with Scott Pilgrim on. Aside from the whole way he has to grow through that series, because that series is as much about romance as it is growth, and there's a lot of both. And now it's time for the mini-boss, Van Pookin, who's weak against the Thunderbolt. But there's two notable things about this boss fight, and that is you can hit it in two places. The interior pumpkin, which is going to spew a bunch of bits at you, or the eyes, the exterior pumpkin, and which portion you deal the final hit to determines what way you progress in the level. If you hit the interior, you're taking the bottom path, and if you hit the exterior last, you're heading out from the right side of the screen. Also, this is me forgetting exactly how to use items in the menu, because you need to press the Y button for that, which just feels unnatural to me. Now, the reason you need to go through this stage twice is because each of the paths has a different secret for us to get, which is kind of annoying, but oh well. The first one is in this room, technically the first two. As with Rush Church in this hidden room, we can find ourselves this stage's Megabolt. And on the right, what's in the right room on the right will only happen if you've done the stages in the order I have and found every secret within them. Namely, secrets related to a certain character who is red and loves sunglasses. Hi again, Proto Man. So, brother, you're not as weak as I thought. Let's see which one of us father made stronger. Optional boss is Proto Man. He jumps, he shoots, he's just like he was in Mega Man 3, but with a few extra bits. He can jump and shoot, just jump, just shoot, dash across the screen, in which case he'll either just fire a single pellet. He can charge his buster, which the only way you can hit him while he's doing so is the moment he unleashes his charge shot, you can release one right back to do massive damage to him. And he also, as you saw, has a bit of a different jump and shoot attack at the end of his jumping and shooting volley, where he'll shoot like 5 shots in a row at different angles. The annoying thing about this fight is that he has a lot of HP. I want to say maybe as much as the final boss, because I think the only thing that does more than 1 damage to him is the charge shot, which I think only does like 2. I mean, you can be here for a while. And while it's a cool fight, it's not very worth it in terms of the reward. With that said, the fight is still cool. I'd say this is probably, in terms of the main Mega Man games, the best Proto Man fight we've gotten. Not that there's many of those. There was, what, Mega Man 3? And that's it? Maybe you are the superior model, Mega Man. Here, take this with you. This is your Proto Shield. You can't give this to me. It's okay. Take it. And watch your back. And now we get the Proto Shield, which is very useless. What it does is it gives you a shield while you're standing still that can block projectiles. Unlike various adaptations of Proto Man over the years, it doesn't work while you're jumping. And of course it doesn't work while you're shooting, which means this is only actively useful in areas where you're going to either be waiting around or you know you can just block some shots by just face tanking some other things. It's cool, and seeing Mega Man with it on is admittedly an interesting sight. It's just not very interesting or useful at all. A shame too, because I think it could have been really cool. And that's the entire reason you take the bottom path, really. The top path, I think, is not only easier, but has the more useful item. Which I've been able to buy in the shop for a while, I just haven't yet. And on this next screen, we got an interesting mechanic, darkness. I hate darkness gimmicks in platformers. But there's a couple things you can do about that depending on your route through the game. If you have the Scorch Wheel, you can light up the background and hit the candles to permanently light it up. Or if you just have Thunderbolt for some reason, you can use that to light it up for just a split second. Neither are very useful, but it's there. And something I'm doing here that I've been doing the entire game but have forgotten to bring up is that Mega Man 7 was the first classic Mega Man game to introduce left and right bumper switching for your weapons. Just pressing L and R and you can cycle through them. And something that I think this game did, but I don't think a couple other Mega Man games did for a while, is you could just press L and R at the same time to send yourself back to the Mega Buster. Certain games don't do that for some reason, and I don't know why. It's really good and useful. Also, this platforming sequence you can just get by spamming Junk Shield because it's really good, though I don't think you can grab the items here because they all fall before you can really have a chance to grab them. But yeah, the reason this game in particular, I believe, has the Ghosts and Goblins reference is partially due to its enemy choices, partially due to the fact that Super Ghouls and Ghosts, I think, was in development around the same time, which if you want to check that game out, I did an LP of that around a year or two ago now. With that, though, let's now check out the East Path from Van Pookin. Again, just take out the outer shell instead of the inner shell in order to reach this pathway. And since this is the only time we're going to hear it, this is Shademan's proper theme. It's also a really good song. I honestly think it's kind of an underrated Mega Man song. I just have to admit, I am one of those people who always listens to the Ghosts and Goblins theme first because it's just cooler to hear that in this game. And I do love that moon in the background. That's just nice looking. And the entire reason you come along this pathway is in this next room, as there's going to be a painting in the background of Dr. Wily. If you use Rush Search beneath that, we're going to get the final item we can find in the game, which is the Energy Balancer, something we've been seeing since Mega Man 6, I believe. Technically speaking, Mega Man X has it by default. What this does, for those of you who are unaware, is if you get excess weapon energy when one of your special weapons isn't at max, and you're not equipped with that particular weapon, it'll automatically funnel it to that weapon. This especially helps if you're just using the Mega Buster a lot like I tend to. It doesn't come that much in play, but it's there. And this is our just about maxed out inventory. The only thing we're missing is Shademan's weapon, which we'll be getting momentarily. With that said, we're now going to be cutting back to the main playthrough of this stage because this is right where we cut back from. Oh, hey, Bay, it's been a while. Damn, I was careless. I feel so stupid to have been defeated so easily. Maybe I should give up and leave Wily to you. No, we're a team. Dr. Light will be glad to fix you up. Thanks. I'm glad that I have a friend like you. Been a while since we last saw him. Either way, it is time for Shademan himself, who is weak against the Wild Coil. The thing is, though, from my memory, he takes double damage from the fully charged version, but you're more likely to reset his pattern with the uncharged version. As for the attack he repeats when he does so, it's the one he's going to lead in with. He's going to fly up at the top of the screen and generally go to one of the extremes. Usually the left is where he's going to start off doing this, and he's going to do a sweep towards you, dependent on where your most recent location is. And that can damage you, period, depending on when in the sweep he's at, like that. But if he grabs you during the main sweep, he'll grab you, take you up to the top, and start sucking your blood. His other attack is that he'll fire blue projectiles from the ground, which continue to stone, and his noise crush ability, which he fires one high, one low, and when they hit the wall, they go back to him, and then when they hit him again, he fires bigger versions in the same areas, which you have to jump and slide over respectively. Kind of a fun fight without the Buster, not gonna lie. And for beating him, we get that variability. The noise crush generates a powerful sound wave, doesn't it? Yes, and you can amplify the wave by absorbing the reflected wave with your body. So essentially, you shoot the noise crush out, it bounces off a wall, and it hits your body, and you shoot out an even more powerful object. There is a trick you could do, though, by firing and sliding at the exact same time to instantly hit the charge, and I was gone for 5 seconds! Dr. Light, what happened? Is that you, Megaman? Base went berserk after I completed his repairs. He stole the parts for the new enhancements. Base? I can't believe it! Hi. Believe it, Megaman. Base and Treble are my creations. I knew you would be stupid enough to trust him and allow him access to the lab. Now, Base and Treble will use the enhancements meant for you and Rush. I'll make you pay, Wily. Well, shit. But with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 4, we're starting off the Wily Castle. See you guys then.